Well, because that's what this was like in a way. A big cinematic fantasy that had a ton of character deaths, only this one was for kids. So no kids sadly, but that's okay. The franchise it came from was still pretty good actually. Trollhunters, Three Below, and Wizards are all pretty great shows. It was a really ambitious idea to have 3 separate animated TV shows all be connected the way it is. Sort of like a mini cinematic universe. Trolls, aliens, and wizards all teaming up to fight evil. Well, for the most part. Wizards is pretty much the only show where they all come together the way they do. Three Below honestly felt the most out of place of the 3. Outside of like the last 2 or 3 episodes and the characters of Trollhunters being in the show, it really felt like it didn't have much to do with the grand story overall. I mean, compared to Trollhunters and Wizards, which are completely tied to each other narratively, Three Below, for the most part, simply felt like its own thing. Not that that's bad or anything, just a little like it doesn't belong as well as it could have. I mean, for crying out loud, Skrull is clearly an Acaridian. Why didn't the show ever do anything with that? Okay, despite missed potential like that, some filler episodes that can be skipped super easily, and the typical kiddie humor you find in kid shows like fart jokes that suck, despite all of that, these were some pretty great shows. As for the movie though... What the? Yeah, I think everyone in this fandom is in agreement. The movie ruined this franchise so hard. What's so frustrating about this movie is that, for the most part, it's really not that bad. It's got issues, sure, but as a finale for 3 separate TV shows, it did well enough. I actually liked how ballsy this movie was with killing off multiple characters, separating certain characters forever, and just the sheer grid of it all. There's tons of watch and destruction, tons of people are implied to have died. It was really cool. I shouldn't be too surprised though, since the shows also had that grid and wasn't afraid to have people die off and stuff. It's just a shame that the villains suck so hard. The Arcane Order has got to be the single worst set of villains this series has ever given us. This franchise was pretty good at giving us either antagonists that were complex and went through good redemption arcs, or were just great you love to hate them villains like Gunmar. I used to think Morgana was the worst villain since she just shows up super late in Trollhunters and did nothing except just lose in the end. But in Wizards, they developed her and made her way more sympathetic to a point where you kinda sided with her. Her brother King Arthur was a massive racist to magical creatures, and Morgana ended up becoming... The Arcane Order is just so dull. They don't do anything that is particularly interesting or evil. I mean, yeah, they're trying to destroy the world, but it's just so typical. Ooh, you're trying to destroy the world, are you? You and practically every other villain in the show, but at least they were fun or interesting. Remember when Gunmar took over Drawl's body and mind and forced Jim to fight him, and throughout the entire fight, he's being this petty little bitch about it? That's what I'm talking about. I love it when villains actually take advantage of how good the hero is and use that against them. And in this particular case, it was really inventive and stuck with me. But these two, I have to look up their names just to remember what they are. They're boring. I guess they're fine for what the film needs, but as a series finale, they just suck so hard as big-time final bosses. The movie also just has way too many characters. Now, for something like this that's supposed to be this franchise's Avengers, that wouldn't normally be that big of a deal, but for this film, it really struggles to find something for everyone to do to justify their presence in the film, especially Dukesy, who is just sidelined so hard in this movie. I honestly can't think of a single thing that he does that actually matters. Oh, he switched souls with Nari so that the Arcane Order can't use her to awaken the Titans. Oh wait, they just undo the spell 5 minutes later anyway, so that was pointless. Yeah, Dukesy just has nothing to do in this movie, which sucks because he was one of my favorite characters in the whole franchise. I loved his arc in the Wizard show and how he learns that he doesn't need to live up to other people's expectations to be worth anything. That's great. I just wish the writers remembered about that. It's not just him either. I think Krell, Steve, and Nomura are all just useless who either don't do anything or whatever they do, it's just undone about 5 minutes later anyway, so it just serves as padding. You can tell this was supposed to just be a second season of Wizards, but then the budget got cut and they had to shorten the entire thing, and Dukesy's cute emo girlfriend got cut, and this movie really shows that. Speaking of Steve, oh boy, Steve. Boy, does he sure suck in this movie. Although, to be fair, I never liked Steve before anyway.
I told you not to invite Steve! Wow, thanks, Sir Boss Man. You're like the really big brother I never wanted. Really, really big.
Was that it? God, I feel sick.
So, how does this movie handle him?
Carl, I don't have to say this, so I'll whisper to cheesy or you'll blurt it out in astonishment.
Steve is pregnant? Yep, they gave us a good old-fashioned impreg subplot because that's not the weirdest, creepiest, and unfunny subplot there is to have. And on top of that, you gave it to the most annoying, unfunny character in the whole franchise. That's great! Hey, can we also talk about that anti-magic generator in the opening? You know, the one that zaps all the power away from the Arcane Order? What's stopping them from just using that again? It wasn't destroyed, so what gives? You have this incredibly powerful weapon that can be used to make the Arcane Order vulnerable, and yet the main characters just forget that they have that? Oh wait, they all forgot that so that Toby could remember they have that in the final battle, just some somehow know how to activate it, and then have his heroic sacrifice in the end. Don't you just love it when a story can just be resolved super easily at any time, but because the plot has to happen, said solution can't happen yet? That's how you know these writers really thought through the plot top to bottom. But aside from those problems, it really seemed like this was just gonna be a pretty mid-finale. It would have been a serviceable farewell to this franchise and all the great characters that we've grown attached to, all except for Steve. That is until the final 15 minutes. That's when both this movie and this entire franchise just takes a super fast, super hardcore nosedive into the ground. And the funny thing is, you can pinpoint the exact moment it happens. The moment Jim realizes he can use the chronosphere to travel back in time and undo everything. Oh, and I do mean everything. He couldn't just go back 15 minutes into the past and keep Toby from dying. No, he has to go back to the actual beginning of the show.
This is bullshit!
What is even the point of rewatching any of these shows now? Knowing full well that Jim is just gonna work to undo every major decision or consequence that followed him on his or the others' journeys. Every death that impacted him, every mistake he made, every choice that made him who he is will no longer matter. Who on earth thought this was a good idea to just unravel everything that's happened throughout the series? This ending makes not just one, but 3 separate shows completely unwatchable now. It's absolutely baffling. Oh, and on top of that, it's just bastardizing Jim's character. Jim is supposed to be the mature, responsible one, even in the beginning of the show. So having to rewind time and go back so that he doesn't have to live the consequences of what's happened is so many character for him. And for everyone else to just be cool with the idea, even though it's mentioned that not everything will happen the same, is wild to me. Asha just had kids with Steve. Why would she be willing to risk her new family? I know that whole impreg thing with Steve was just a joke, but am I wrong? Would Asha actually do that? Is that in her character? I don't think so. Jim doesn't even say goodbye to his mother, one of the most important people in his life. What the hell is that about? But you know what? Maybe Jim will work really hard to not change the timeline. He'll let those who die at certain times die because that's just the way it is. He'll do everything he can to make sure it all goes according to he lets Toby have the amulet instead. At what point did it make any narrative sense to give Toby the amulet in the end? What on earth does that do for his character? For Jim's character? I can't even process why Jim would even do that. What, was it so that if Toby had the amulet, then Jim won't have to worry about him making his sacrifice in the end? Well, then that would mean that Jim is the one who makes the sacrifice. And if that means anything, then Toby will be the one who goes back in time and makes sure Jim gets the amulet. It'll just be some dumbass cycle. Like, how does this fix anything? If they had just committed to having Toby die in the end, and then just left it at that, then despite this movie's other flaws, I would have given this movie a lot of credit. Like, how many movies or TV shows do you know about that actually kills off the comic relief sidekick? It's a very rare thing, especially in something made for kids. But no, this movie pussed out like a bitch. I mean, there was literally an episode in Trollhunters that showed us what would happen if Jim didn't stumble upon the amulet that day and became the Troll Hunter. What, we're supposed to just ignore all that? This ending was so bad that now you understand why people compare it to Game of Thrones. Because now, we can't watch the show anymore at all. As someone who's never bothered watching Game of Thrones, I get the frustration. It sucks watching something that was really good just fall apart so badly in the end. This had to have been made by a different team who just did not understand the assignment at all. But at this point, am I really adding anything to this movie? Just about everyone who's a fan of this series knows that this is a sloppy ending. On top of that horrible ending, characters are wasted, it's weird and not in a good fun way, the story doesn't flow as well as it could. It's a very messy finale to an otherwise great franchise. I wish I could say that the journey was what was important, not the destination, but in this case, the destination was literally just the beginning of the journey again. What a waste of time! Overall, a mostly mid-movie with a terrible ending that drags it down so much harder than it needed to. It really is just those last 15 minutes. But this is a clear case of an ending just completely butchering a movie and an entire franchise all at the same time. But really, you probably already guessed that. This is just a review that a lot of people requested, so here you are. A review that said everything you probably already